at the end of the day, I think there's so many complicated problems today that require solutions where we have to work across the aisle.
We're back with the Republican challenger in Kansas' 3rd Congressional District, Dr. Prasanth Reddy. He's an oncologist from Lenexa, Kansas. Reddy's family immigrated to the U.S. from India when he was 5. Years later, he earned his medical degree from the University of Kansas and has spent more than 2 decades as a physician in the Air Force Reserve. He's a political newcomer, having never run for office before. Dr. Reddy has discussed his family's story at length as a way to explain his policies on immigration. And that's where we start our conversation today. You are an immigrant who came to this country at a very young age, and you have long said that your story is emblematic of the American dream. But you're critical of the immigration process now, all these years later. So what do you think needs to change?
Yeah, I think it's a critical question for America. America's a country of immigrants. My parents came here in the late 70s. We did it the legal way, and we came here to live our American dream. I've been in Kansas for 40 years, and it's one of the honors of my lifetime to get American citizenship. So I think there's a legal path here, and we just have to make sure that we follow the rules.
Would you support some sort of amnesty program for people who are already here now?
Well, of course. I mean, I think we have to look at each individual situation, and we have to have a better understanding of why folks are coming here. But look at the folks in Afghanistan. I mean, we let some of those folks who fought, blood, sweat, tears, lost life and limb, and we didn't allow those folks to get amnesty status, and we let a number of those folks, unfortunately, left them in a perilous situation.
A number of Republican colleagues and candidates running for various offices in Kansas and Missouri have proposed rounding up illegal immigrants, they say, and trying to use some sort of law enforcement mechanism. Do you support anything like that?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is that we need to have a mechanism for accountability. And so I'm not sure if the rounding up is the right word that I would use, but certainly we need to be able to have an understanding of who's in the country, how long they've been here. Just for example, there are economic repercussions for folks coming into the country. Some of my friends have lost kids, and we've lost members of our community to fentanyl overdose. And there's public health issues too. I'm a cancer doctor, and I can tell you, do we know the vaccination status of 11 million folks? And we've just gone through a pandemic that was devastating to the entire country and the world. And do we know what their vaccination status is? So there's a number of reasons why we need to have some kind of accountability and ability to track folks. And of course we want to let folks come and join our country. We are a country of immigrants. We are the melting pot.
Let's talk public health. Your opponent, Congresswoman Sharice Davids, supported the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which, among other things, capped insulin costs for Medicare recipients at $35 a month. It's a big point for her campaign. You do not necessarily support government regulating drug prices. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so again, I've spent my life trying to bring innovation to cancer patients. I've had a hand as part of many teams globally in improving cancer care around the world. And a lot of that has to do with supporting innovation, supporting research. By putting price caps on all drugs, I think we're going to curb innovation. Now, of course, there's loopholes. If something should be generic, then we should not have loopholes to extend patent life. But at the same time, there's other innovative mechanisms, for example, enabling clinical trials that will potentially help the healthcare ecosystem continue to have innovation so we can bring the cures of tomorrow and make them the realities of today.
Let's go deeper. It was first reported in the Kansas Reflector that your campaign had received, I think it was more than $400,000 from political interests aligned with pharmaceutical companies opposed to capping the prices of insulin. What would you say to voters about a potential conflict of interest?
Yeah, so the basic thing I'd tell you there is that was over a lifetime, my investments in the industry. And it's because I believe in healthcare and I believe in innovation, and my goodness, we've certainly made tremendous progress over the many decades. So the short answer there is we should never have insider trading. We should never have a situation where people are picking winners and losers based on personal gain, and of course I'm opposed to that. But it's 6 degrees of separation. I mean, I don't think I have anything to do with other folks who may have a different position on certain issues than I do.
Let's talk about abortion, an important issue, of course, this year in Missouri we're seeing that, but voters in Kansas a couple of years ago overwhelmingly protected abortion rights. You've been hit pretty hard in campaign ads as supporting the dismantling of Roe v. Wade, and I just wanted to give you a chance to explain your stance on abortion here.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I'm going to start as a doc. we always start with a place of empathy. That's what medicine is, and we have to make sure that we're protecting our patients. So that's the first place that I would start. And then from there, you know, what I would say is I 100% believe in exceptions, and it's exactly what you said. I mean, I trust the voters of this state, the voters in this district, to make the right decisions, and they've made their wishes clear. And so as far as I'm concerned, I would not dismantle, you know, what has already been laid out by the voters. And personally, I think because of the Supreme Court decision, this is a states' rights issue, and I certainly wouldn't support a national ban.